In Modern Horizons 3, there are many powerful cards, but there are two 2-mana enchantments that are making their way onto the scene. These cards are Thonic Nightmare and Birthing Ritual. While Birthing Ritual is similar to Birthing Pod, which people know is powerful, Thonic Nightmare is similar to a better card. This is similar to Recurring Nightmare, but somehow even more powerful. The reason is because it costs one less, and alone, this card is one of the best card advantage spells in the entire Modern format. When looking at the rest of our list, we do get to play some new cool cards like Grist Ferocious Larva, Flare of Malice, and some cool utility lands like Phyrexian Tower and Spymaster's Vault. So we're going to be taking this sweet Golgari scam combo list through a League of Modern to see how powerful these new cards are. Just a friendly reminder before the first match starts to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. We're on the play, but starting hand does not have enough lands, so we sadly have them all. And this hand looks perfectly fine. We'll keep putting back a Bloodstained Mire. We'll lead on turn 1 Mire. When it goes turn 1 into Flood Strand, we will get our Surveil land on the end step, and we don't need another land. We find a Stitcher Supplier, we will play out our Blooming Marsh into a Malevolent Rumble, and these are not great. I mean, we do get a free Bloodghast, which is nice, so we'll pick up our Spymaster's Vault. In our end step, they fetch Shock and cast out Consider, bidding a Ragavan. One plays out Surveil land, keeping the card on top. We'll play out our Spymaster's Vault, getting back our Bloodghast, and we'll play out our Stitcher Supplier. Those are some good ones. We'll play out our Nightmare, get 3 energy, then we will pick up our Bowmasters, sacking our Stitcher Supplier, milling over another Nightmare and a Grist, shoot the opponent for 1, and pass. And they fire off the heat on our Bowmasters. Opponent plays out a Delta into a DRC. They fetch out an island, casting an EI, and they exile a Bauble. Okay, we top deck a Bowmasters. So let's play out our Bloodstained Mire, fetch Shock, cast out the Bowmasters, shoot the DRC for 1, and we will play out our Nightmare. They have a Force Negation? Oh. Alright, well, guess we're going to combat, attacking in. And they're down to 11. Don't cast out an EI. They play out an island, exiling a Mishra's Bauble. Cast out their Bauble. Then they cast out a Murktide region and attack in for 3. Oh, Grist off the top, huge draw. We will fire off a Not Dead After All on our Bowmasters, then sacrifice it to Grist, take down their Murktide. They look at our top card. Bowmasters re-enters. We'll shoot the opponent for 1 and attack in for 5. When it's down to 5, they draw a card off of Bauble in their upkeep, so we'll shoot the opponent down to 4. Opponent dashes out a Ragavan. They attack us for 2 and take down our Grist. And they exile at Bowmasters. And they cast out our Bowmasters, taking out our Bloodghast. Ooh, top deck a Grief. We'll go to combat, attack in with the team. And they just chump block our Orc Army. So we'll cast out our Grief. And opponent's hand's not very good, so let's take their Ragavan. Opponent cast out a Preordain. We'll shoot them for 1. And they attack in for 3. Then they fire off a Bolt on our Grief. We untap and we'll just go to combat, attacking with the team. And opponent scoops it up. Let's go on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Rite of the Reliquary and a Stitcher Supplier for Flare of Malice and 2 Shieldreds. Game 2 starting hand is a little weird, but I'll try it out. Run Flood Strand for the opponent. We top deck a Blooming Marsh. We will play out our Bloodstained Mire. Opponent plays on island, passing, and step will Surveil. And we will bin a land. Bloodstained Mire off the top. Play out our Blooming Marsh into a Bloodghast. And on our end step, they Unholy Heat our Bloodghast. Opponent dashes out a Ragavan. Then they cast out a Bauble, looking at our top card. And they exile our Grist and cast it out. We find a Nightmare off the top. We will play out our Bloodstained Mire, picking up our Bloodghast, then cast a Flare of Malice, getting rid of our Bloodghast, taking out the Grist. Then we will play out our Nightmare, then fetch Shock, getting back our Bloodghast. And we will sacrifice our Bloodghast to the Nightmare, getting back our Grist. And when Grist enters the battlefield, we get a trigger. We will pay a green, flip our Grist, and tick up, getting an Insect. That was a pretty cool turn. Opponent fires off an Unholy Heat, taking out Grist. Draw Swamp. We will cast out our Nightmare, get 3 energy, get back our Grist, sacking our Insect, trigger Grist. We will pay a green, tick up, then we'll play our Swamp, getting back a Bloodghast, and pass the opponent. Opponent casts out a Dress Down, drawing a card. Then they play out a Delta, fetching into a Ragavan. We draw a Not Dead After All. We will tick up with our Grist, milling a Shieldred and an Endurance. Okay, let's play out our Nightmare, get 3 energy, pick up our Shieldred, sacking a Bloodghast, then play out our land, getting back our Bloodghast, play out our Nightmare, get 3 more energy, and I think picking up Endurance is actually better here, sacking Bloodghast, and then shuffle their graveyard into their deck. This Nightmare card has been obscenely good, holy. Then we'll attack in for 1. Opponent plays out an island, nothing else. We top deck a Grist, we'll gain 2. We'll tick up our Grist, milling over a Grief and another Grist. We will play out our, I meant to play up the Nightmare, oopsies. Well, we'll play out Bloodghast into a Nightmare, and they counter that. So we'll go to combat, attacking with the team, and they block our Shieldred. Oh, this is another 2, and they scoop it up. Let's get on to the next match. We are on the draw, and starting hand has a scam effect, so we'll keep. We draw another Not Dead After All. We will play out our Swamp, poke out our Grief, and we'll pitch the Grist. We'll take the Amped Raptor, the Not Dead After All, and then take the Ajani. Instead, they surveil Bowmasters in the yard, then play out an Aether Hub. And they top deck an Ajani, unfortunate. We draw another land. We will go to combat, attack in for 4. Then we'll play out a Bloodstained Mire and pass the opponent. Opponent plays out an Aether Hub. Opponent attacks in for 2. Then he casts out an Obnixilis, sacking the cat and trying to flip their Ajani. So in response, we will Not Dead After All our Grief, and then cast out our Flare of Malice. And we'll take their Bowmasters. They take up with one of the obs, and they take up the other, so we lose 4. Instead, we will fetch out our Surveil land, and we'll Bindle land. We find a Rite of the Reliquary. Pretty good draw. Go to combat, attacking with our Grief. Take out one of the obs, and then just hold up Endurance. Opponent plays out their Nightmare. Then they down tick their obs, so in response, we'll fetch, picking up a Forest. They sack their Devil, trying to return an Ajani, so in response to this, we will cast out our Endurance and shuffle their grave into the deck. Draw another land, play that out, play our Rite of Reliquary. Go to combat, attack the opponent, and take down their ob. Plays out their Nightmare again into a Static Prison, and they take out our Grief. Ooh, we top deck a Bloodghast. Great draw. We will play that out. Go to combat, attack in with the team. Then we will sack our Bloodghast to the right, get a Spymaster's Vault, get back our Bloodghast, and pass the opponent. When opponent scoops it up, let's get on to sideboarding. We're gonna take out 3 Bloodghast and a Rite of the Reliquary for Plague Engineer and 3 Dothy Voidwalkers. Game 2, starting hand looks great. Opponent goes turn 1 Godless Shrine into a Guide of Souls. We draw a Verdant. We will go turn 1 Blooming Marsh into a Stitcher Supplier. Opponent plays out a Secret Foundry untapped into an Oscillate Pride and a Nile Spellbomb. Then they attack with their soul. Ooh, we top deck a Bowmasters. We'll play out our Blooming Marsh and just slam a Dothy here. Opponent shocks and land, playing out an Obnixilis. They tick up, we'll lose 2 life. Then they down tick, making a Devil and triggering Guide. And they attack in, giving their Oscillate Pride flying and 2 extra counters, so we'll take the damage. They get a bunch of tokens. That's so sweet. And we draw just another land. At this point, we're too far behind, so we'll scoop it up and get on to the next game. Game 3 on the play. Starting hand's a little land heavy, but with the Surveil land, it seems fine. We'll lead on turn 1 Surveil land. Yeah, we'll keep Plague Engineer. Opponent goes turn 1 Sacred Foundry into an Oscillate Pride. We draw our Plague Engineer. We will fetch with a Bloodstained Mire and just fire off our Bowmasters now, taking out the Pride. Opponent plays out an Arena of Glory into a Guide of Souls and a Nile Spellbomb. Top deck an Endurance. We will go to combat, hack in with the team. Opponent takes it, go Verdant, and pass the opponent. Opponent plays out an Ajani. And then they play out a Surveil land. And in step, we will fetch out a Forest, playing our Endurance. Ooh, a Grist. We will go to combat, attack in with the team, and they block our Bowmasters, so we will try Not Dead After All. Opponent flips their Ajani. We try and get back our Bowmasters. Wow, we get to. That's nice. So we'll ping their Guide of Souls, cast out another Bowmasters, taking it out, and then play out a tapped land. Opponent shocks in a Godless Shrine, then zeroes their Ajani, making a cat. And they cast a Galvanic Discharge on our Endurance into a Flage, taking out our Orc Army. Ooh, we top deck a Grief. We'll just cast out Plague Engineer, naming cat, then go to combat and take out their Ajani. Opponent plays out an Aether Hub, then pops their Spellbomb, drawing a card. We get 2 triggers from our Bowmasters, and they play out an Obnixilis. We top deck a Grist. We'll go to combat and attack everything at face. Yeah, they block our Bowmasters, get a trigger with their Devil, taking out our Bowmasters so they lose a life. Then we'll play out our Grist and hold the other Grist for in case they escape Flage. They tick up with their ob, we'll lose 2. They had a land. Opponent passes, we draw a Bloodstained Mire, we will go to combat, attacking with the team. They have a Bowmasters, that's really good. Yep, and they take out our Bowmasters, and then they double block our Plague Engineer. Then we will play out our Grief and do a Bloodstained Mire. Opponent escapes Flage out of their yard using their Arena of Glory to give it haste. And they take out our Orc Army. They took up with their ob, we'll take 2. Oh, and they even drew Bowmasters, that's really good. And they shoot us for 1, attacking with their Flage, taking out our Grief. And then we draw a land. Okay, so we're gonna have to play out Grist here, down tick, sacking our other Grist and taking out their Flage. Not a good spot to be in. Opponent takes up with their op. Then they attack us for 1 and our Grist down into a Nile Spellbomb, which they use immediately, into an Oscillate Pride. And we top deck up a Seiju, so sadly, we do lose this one, so let's get on to the next match. We're on the draw, and starting hand is a little too slow for my liking. Our 6 is not much better, but we will keep it and put back a Bloodstained Mire. Opponent goes turn 1 Vantage into a Guide of Souls. We draw a Blooming Marsh, we'll play our Mire. Opponent plays out a land into an Ajani, and they attack in for 1. And top card is another land. Oh my, more lands. Unfortunately. unfortunate. We'll play out our Blooming Marsh, passing. Opponent plays out an Amped Raptor, gaining life off of the Goddess Souls, get another energy, and they reveal a Galvanic Discharge. Yep, and they cast it on their cat, killing it, flipping a Johnny. Okay, at this point, we're way too far behind. We'll scoop it up and get on sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Rite of the Reliquary, a Stitcher Supplier for Plague Engineer, Flare of Malice, and Force of Despair. Game 2, starting hand just doesn't have enough lands in it, so we'll mull. This hand is a little bit better. We will keep it and put back a Grief. Verdant, pass. Opponent goes turn 1 Sacred Foundry into a Ragavan. In step, we will Surveil, and we've been a Stitcher Supplier. Come on, land, please. Oh, let's go. Pass the opponent. Opponent plays a land, attacks it with Ragavan. We will fire off our Bowmasters, taking down the Ragavan. Nothing from the opponent. We will cast our Malevolent Rumble, pick up a Blooming Marsh, play that out, and then sacrifice our Eldrazi for a Birthing Ritual. In step, we trigger a Ritual and reveal a bunch of cards. I thought I could get the Grief, but I cannot. I misread the card, so we'll just pick up another Bowmasters, shooting the opponent for 1. And they bolt our Bowmasters. Don't cast out a Ragavan into a bolt on our army. But not dead after all. We will cast out our Grist, tick up, milling over a land, and go to the end step, triggering Ritual. And we will sack our Insect, getting a Grist. Opponent plays out an Amped Raptor, getting out Galvanic Discharge, which they use to kill our Grist, and they attack our Grist for 2. Ooh, a Nightmare is great. We will play out our Stitcher Supplier, milling over a few cards. We'll tick up our Grist. Ooh, we get 2 triggers. That's nice. We'll play out our Nightmare. Then we will try and pick up a Bowmaster, sacrifice an Insect, shoot their Ragavan, move to the end step, trigger a Ritual, which finds nothing. Awesome. I'll cast out an Ajani, and they attack our Grist. We'll just chump with an Insect, and end step, we will actually Force of Despair. Draw a Grief, tick up with our Grist, milling over a Bloodghast. We will play out our Nightmare, get back a Grief, sacrificing our Insect. I guess we will take an Amped Raptor, then go to combat, back with our Bowmaster and the Work Army. Okay, we see another Grief, so we will sacrifice our Grief to put a Grief into play, and we'll take their Unstable Amulet. I'll cast out an Ajani, and scoops it up. Let's get on to game 3. Game 3, starting hand is just a little too weak, so we'll. Yeah, this hand's better. We will keep and put back a Flare Mouse. Turn 1 Marsh Flash to the opponent. We will go turn 1 Blooming Marsh into a Stitcher Supplier, and in step, they Surveil, keep the card on top. Opponent goes land into an Ajani, pick up a land, play Verdant, and pass the opponent. Opponent goes to combat, attacks in with their cat, and then they cast out an Amped Raptor. So in response, we will cast our Flare Mouse, sacrificing their Stitcher Supplier, and Amped Raptor finds an Ocelot Pride, and they play out a Ragavan. In step, we will fetch out a Swamp and flash into Bowmasters, and we'll take out their Ocelot Pride. Top deck a land. We'll play out our Nightmare, and we'll pick up an Endurance, sacrificing our Orc, put in their yard into their deck, and then we'll play out our Bloodstained Mire. Opponent plays out a land into a Tomad's Grip. They attack in with the team. We will block the Ragavan with our Endurance, and they bolt our Endurance. In step, we will fetch our Surveil land, and Plague Engineer seems pretty decent. We'll keep that on top, shock in our Overgrown Tomb, and play out our Grief. And it's another bolt. Opponent finds a Galvanic Discharge, then attacks in for 4. We find another Nightmare. We will play our Plague Engineer out, naming Dinosaur. Opponent goes to combat, and we will not block. Okay, we draw a Stitcher Supplier. We'll play out our Nightmare. And we sadly have to force this Tomad's Crypt, so we will try and pick up our Bowmaster, sacrificing our Plague Engineer. Yep, they pop their Tomad's Crypt. Then we will play out our Stitcher Supplier and pass the opponent. Land go from the opponent. We top deck a Grist. We will play out our Nightmare, and we will try and get back a Bowmasters, sacking our Stitcher Supplier. That resolves, we'll shoot their cat, then we will play out another Nightmare, then we will sack our Orc Army, picking up a Grief, and we'll take their Wrath of Skies. That's actually pretty good. Our top deck's a Flage, that's so good. And they put us down to 1. We top deck a Grist, we will play out our Nightmare, go to combat, attacking with the team, then bring back our Endurance, sacrificing our Bowmasters, shuffle their yard into their deck, and play out another Nightmare, and sack Endurance, picking up Bowmasters, shooting the opponent for 1. Tap land for the opponent, top deck a land, play out Swamp, cast out a Grist, cast a Nightmare, go to combat, attacking for 5, sack our Orc Army to bring back an Endurance, shuffle nothing in, and then we'll pay a green to flip our Grist, and we will tick up, land over 2 Grist, and then we'll play out another Grist, and another land for the opponent. Top deck up a Seiju, we'll go to combat, attacking with the team, then we will tick up with Grist, play out a Nightmare, we will pick up our Grist, sacrificing our Orc, then we will replay out Nightmare, pick up with Grist, bring back our Bowmaster, sacrifice an Insect, shoot our opponent for 1, play our Beseiju, cast out another Nightmare, then bring back a Stitcher Supplier, sacrificing our Grist, and hope they don't top deck anything. And opponent scoops it up. Wow, what a close game. All right, let's get on to the next match. We're on the play, and starting hand is a little too weak, so mull. Our 6 is a little bit better. We will keep and put back a land. Lead on turn 1 Verdant and pass the opponent. Turn 1 turn for the opponent. In step, we will Surveil, and we will bin a Grief. Top deck another land. We will shock in our Overgrown Tomb and fire off a Bloodghast now. In step, opponent fires off to consider binning a Vizier of Many Faces. What is going on? Play a Surveil land, binning a Preordain. Ooh, Birthing Ritual. Good draw. Go to combat, attack in for 2. And we'll play out Birthing Ritual. Resolves, go to the end step, trigger it. And unfortunately, we do not get to get anything here. So we'll say no. Opponent cycles a Lorn Revealed, picking up an island. Opponent plays out an island. We top deck a Grist. We'll go to combat and go to the end step, triggering our ritual. In response, they consider. So we'll flash in our Bowmasters, shoot the opponent, get another Bowmaster trigger, shoot them again. And we will use ritual, sacking our army and picking up a Grist. Opponent fires up Preordain. We get to ping them for 1 into a tap T-West. I'm beyond confused what's going on here. We will go to combat, attacking with the team, play out a Stitcher Supplier. Okay, these are some good ones. We will shock in our Overgrown Tomb, cast out a Nightmare, and with the energy trigger on the stack, they consign to memory. It's pretty sweet, and we will pass, triggering our ritual. We do find a Bowmasters, so we will sack our Supplier, picking up Bowmasters, and we will mill ourselves for 3 and shoot the opponent for 1. Okay, opponent plays out Lotus Field, floating 2 mana into a Dream's Grip, untapping their Lotus Field. Then they play out a One Ring, draw a card, we get some triggers, we'll just shoot our army, growing up. Then they Hidden Strings, untapping their Lotus Field and a One Ring. Again, we will just grow our army. And they play out an Expedition Map, cracking it, getting a Deserted Temple. That is really cool. We top deck a land, we will play out our Grist, pick up, play out our land, then go to the end step. Oh, we do find an Endurance here. That seems like a good one to pick up. So we'll sack our Bloodghast, get our Endurance, and put their deck or their yard in. Oh, wait, we can't because of the One Ring. All right, I guess we're just passing. When it is down to 4, they play out their Deserted Temple. Opponent floats some mana off Lotus Field, untapping their temple, and they cast a Wish to an Underworld Breach. They escape out of Hidden Strings, untapping their 2 lands. Then they cast out a Vizier of Many Faces, copying our Bowmasters, killing a Bowmasters. They draw 3. We will take out their Bowmasters, shoot the opponent for 1, and I guess shoot the Orc for 1. Then they Dream's Grip their Lotus Field and cast out a Hidden Strings, untapping their 2 lands. Then they cast another copy of the One Ring, getting protection. Then tap their One Ring, drawing 4. We have to shoot nothing. Yep, and they get to redo this over and over again, drawing a bunch of cards. Our opponent ends up drawing a bunch of cards, giving us a 40-40 army, casting a Wish into a Twiddle, and then finally casting out a Thassa's Oracle, taking us down. So let's get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Flare Malice, 3 Grist, 2 Rite of the Reliquary, a Stitcher Supplier, and a Grist for 2 Haywire Might, 2 Fulminator Mage, 3 Damping Sphere, and 2 Shieldred the Apocalypse. Game 2, starting hand, looks pretty good. Ooh, Leyline of Sanctity for the opponent. We'll play out our Blooming Marsh into a Stitcher Supplier. And we do mill over Bloodghast, sweet value. Then it goes turn 1 Surveil Lamp. We draw a Not Dead After All. We will play out our Grist, play a Boseiju, getting back our Bloodghast, and we will pay a green to flip our Grist, and we'll down tick right away, getting rid of their Leyline, then attacking for 1. Tap land for the opponent into an Expedition Map. Land for us, we will tick up their Grist, land over Endurance, and a Malevolent Rumble. We will fetch Shock, and then cast out our Fulminator Mage, and sacking it, getting rid of their Thundering Falls, and attacking for 3. Opponent fires off a Preordain. Then they bolt in a Sink into Stupor into a Consider. Top deck another Fulminator Mage. We will play that out, sack it, taking out another land, tick up our Grist, go to combat, attacking with the team. Opponent plays out a land, cracks our Expedition Map, picking up an island. Ooh, we draw a Nightmare. Yeah, I guess we'll play that out. Sack something. Oh, and before we can pick up our Fulminator Mage, they scoop it up, and let's get on to Game 3. Game 3, we're going to take out 2 Malevolent Rumble and a Nightmare for 3 Dothies. Game 3, starting hand is not the most powerful, but it's definitely a keep. Opponent leads on turn 1 Island into a Preordain. We top deck a Not Dead After All. We will go turn 1 Fetch Shock and go turn 1 Grist. Opponent plays out a Scolding Tarn into an Expedition Map. Ooh, Damping Sphere for us. We will play out our Forest into a Birthing Ritual, back in for 1, then trigger our Ritual, and in response to that, they do cycle Lorn Revealed. Back our Grist. I don't know if Bowmaster's Dothi is better, but we'll pick up a Bowmasters, shooting the opponent. Opponent goes tap Thundering Fall. Top deck another Shieldred. We will play out our Bloodstained Mire, then cast out a Damping Sphere, and we'll go to combat, attacking with the team. End step trigger Ritual. And yeah, we will definitely trigger our Ritual, sacking our army, picking up a Grist. And still on their end step, they crack their Expedition Map, picking up a Deserted Temple. And opponent goes Island into a One Ring, then draw a card. End step, we Surveil. Give us a land, please. Yes, we'll keep that on top. Untap, play out Swamp, cast out our Shieldred, go to the end step, triggering our Ritual, and we will definitely sack our Grist, picking up another copy of the Bowmasters, shooting ourselves. It loses 1 from the One Ring and 2 from Shieldred. They play out their Deserted Temple, passing the turn. We top deck a Bloodstained Mire, gain 2 from Shieldred, go to combat, attacking with the team, and opponent just scoops it up there, so let's get on to that next match. We are on the draw, and starting hand looks great. Opponent goes turn 1 Surveil, keeping the card on top. We top deck a Not Dead After All, and we'll go turn 1 Bloodstained Mire, fetch shock, and run out our Stitcher Supplier, and nothing really good off the mill, sadly. Opponent plays out a Gilded Goose into a Boseiju. Top deck another land here, play out our Bloodstained Mire, fetch, picking up a swamp, and playing out our Ritual. On the end step, we trigger it, and we will sack our Supplier, picking up a Rite of the Reliquary, which is a 2-mana 6/6, pretty impressive. Opponent plays out a Prosperous Innkeeper into a Birthing Ritual of their own, and they sacrifice their Innkeeper, putting an Endurance into play and shuffling in our graveyard. Unfortunate. Find a Malevolent Rumble. We will cast that out. Yeah, we'll definitely take a Grief. Then we will play out our land, fetch shock, cast out our Grief, pitching Bowmasters. Take a Pixie Poo with their hand. Seeing a Yawgmoth, a Birthing Ritual, and a Bowmasters. They're not really close to casting Yawgmoth, so we'll take the Bowmasters, cast a Not Dead After All in our Grief, then cast out our Flare of Malice, sacrificing our Grief, and we will take the Birthing Ritual. Then they sacrifice their Endurance, and we will go to combat, attacking for 3. And on the end step, we trigger our Ritual. And yes, we will trigger it, sacrificing our Grief and picking up another Grief. We'll look at their hand, taking out their Yawgmoth, and pass, having a really good turn. Pendlehaven from the opponent, they trigger Ritual, picking up a Prosperous Innkeeper. And still on the end step, we will sacrifice our Spawn, getting a trigger, finding a Surveil land off of our right, and we will bin a land. We draw another land. We will cast out our Malevolent Rumble. Still nothing great here. Stitcher Supplier is better than nothing, so we'll pick that up, cast out our Stitcher Supplier, laying over 2 Grists, so we'll go to combat, attacking with the team. Opponent's down to 7, play land, trigger our Ritual, and we will sacrifice our Stitcher Supplier, getting a free Bowmasters, taking out their only creature, and finally milling over a Bloodghast. Yep, and they do save it with their Pendlehaven. Another land for the opponent, triggering Ritual, and they sacrifice their Innkeeper, picking up a Bogart Trawler. So we'll fetch with our Mire in response, picking up a Tomb, getting back our Bloodghast, and sacrifice Bloodghast to the right, and opponent scoops it up there, so we will get on to sideboarding. We're going to take out 2 Rites, 2 Flare of Malice, a Nightmare, and a Bloodghast for 2 Haywire Mites, 3 Dothies, and a Plague Engineer. Game 2, starting hand's just a little too weak, so we got a mole. And our 6 is much stronger. We will keep putting back a land. We top deck another Grist. We will play out our Bloodstained Mire, fetch shock, and go turn 1 Grist. And on our end step, they fire off a push on our Grist. Interesting. Opponent plays out an Urborg. We will play out our Verdant and cast out a Nightmare. Yeah, and on our end step, they flash in a Bowmasters. Opponent attacks in for 2. Then they run out a Blooming Marsh, playing a Bogart Trawler, taking out a graveyard. And we do top deck a land here. We will play that out, fetch out a Forest, and then cast our Grist, pick up, moon over Dothy. Wow, yeah, we'll pick that up, sacking our Insect, pass into the opponent. Opponent fires off an Abrupt Decay, taking out our Dothy. Then they attack in, taking Grist out and hitting us for 1. Nothing else from the opponent. Top deck a Dothy. We will just run out our Grist here, pick up, milling over a Supplier. Okay, opponent plays out a Birthing Ritual into a Haywire Mite. In step, they trigger Ritual, sacking a Bowmasters, getting a Grist of their own. Okay, Plague Engineer off the top for us. We will down tick our Grist, sacking our Insect, taking out their Grist. Then play out our Haywire Mite, passing to the opponent. They play land, attack us with a Trawler, and Grist with Army Haywire Mite. We'll block the Haywire Mite, sack our Haywire Mite, take out Ritual, meaning our Grist is still alive. And then they cast out an Ewit, picking up Fatal Push. In step, we will fetch, getting our Surveil land. Tap land is not what we're looking for here. Find another Nightmare. We will lead on ticking up with Grist, milling over Ritual, and then we will cast out our Plague Engineer, naming Goblin. And on our end step, they Fatal Push our Plague Engineer. Opponent attacks everything at Grist. We'll take out their Haywire Mite. We draw a Stitcher Supplier. Actually, really good draw here. So we will play out our Nightmare, getting 3 energy, then play out Stitcher Supplier, milling over 3. Then we will pick up our Plague Engineer, sacking Supplier, milling over Dothy, Not Dead After All Swamp, get back our Plague Engineer, name Orc. Someone plays out a Young Wolf, hacks in. We'll take the damage. Come on, land, please. Let's go. Land's so good. We will play out our land, play out our Nightmare, sack our Plague Engineer, picking up a Grist, pick up Grist, play out another Nightmare, get some more energy, sack our Insect, picking up a Plague Engineer, then we will name Human. When it attacks in with the Young Wolf, we will block with our Plague Engineer. Nothing after that. On our upkeep, they Abrupt Decay our Grist. We draw a Spymaster's Vault. We will play out our Nightmare, then play out our Bloodghast, sack Bloodghast to pick up our Grist, pick up our Grist, land over Grief, playing out our Vault, getting back our Bloodghast, and passing to the opponent. When it plays out Forest, passing. We top deck a Bowmasters. We'll take up our Grist, play out our Nightmare, sack Insect to pick up Grief. Okay, opponent does have an Endurance. Pretty good for them. So we will just cast out our Dothy and pass the opponent. Surveil land for the opponent. Spinning a Verdant Catacombs. Go to combat, attacking Endurance at Grist. We will block with our Plague Engineer, trading. Top deck another Bowmasters, take up our Grist, finding a Grief. We will activate Dothy, get their Endurance, cast it, shuffle their Yard into their deck, play out Nightmare, sack Insect, pick up Dothy, and opponent scoops it up there. We end up going 4-1. What an impressive showing for Golgari Scam. So overall, I do think this deck's very powerful. I think there are some cards I would not be playing. Rite of the Reliquary seemed very underwhelming. Malevolent Rumble, also not that great in my opinion. I think the card is good, just not in this deck. I was extremely impressed with Nightmare, or I don't even know how to say Trenthian Nightmare. This card was like just insane. It has like a crazy amount of card advantage. It's so good in this deck, and like it was beyond impressive. So like as for changes, I'd probably be playing the 4th Nightmare, the 4th Bowmaster, probably the 4th Bloodghast, get rid of the Rites, get rid of the Malevolent Rumbles, maybe add another Birthing Ritual. As for our sideboard, probably not have Forces to Spare. That card's not very good. But other than that, this deck is like just fantastic. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. Please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.